You were told the global chip shortage was over. Headlines cheered, factories reopened. Prices stabilized just enough for people to stop asking questions. Car lots refilled. Consumer electronics returned to shelves, the world moved on. But if you look closer, the shortage never really ended. It changed shape. It went quiet. Today, semiconductors aren't just components, they are leverage. In this video, we'll explore why the chip crisis didn't disappear, how geopolitics cemented it in place, and why the next decade of technology is being shaped by decisions most people never even saw. You probably remember when the chip shortage was declared over, but here's the uncomfortable truth. It never actually ended. It just stopped being visible. What changed wasn't supply, it was perception. The crisis moved away from consumers and into infrastructure, contracts, and geopolitics. Once a shortage becomes structural, silence doesn't mean stability, it means control. Chips are not just parts, they are the limiters of progress. Every modern system depends on them. Phones, cars, power grids, medical equipment, industrial machinery, satellites, defense systems. Even the devices monitoring energy, water, and transportation rely on specific, irreplaceable chips. That is why the shortage never really left. The global chip crisis didn't begin in a factory. It began with assumptions. For decades, the tech world assumed supply would always scale with demand. That assumption broke in 2020, pandemic disruptions, factory shutdowns, logistics chaos, and sudden spikes in demand collided all at once. By 2021, the impact was visible everywhere. Automakers halted production lines over chips that cost just a few dollars. Consumer electronics were delayed or redesigned. Governments realized entire industries could stall because of missing components smaller than a fingernail. By 2022, headlines shifted. Governments announced interventions. Companies promised to expand capacity. Recovery seemed underway, but recovery from what, exactly? Production increased, yes, but resilience did not. The world learned how many chips it needed. It did not learn how to spread control of them. When analysts say the chip shortage eased, they usually mean high-volume consumer products recovered first. Advanced chips in smartphones and data centers bounced back quickly because they are produced in the most profitable advanced fabs. But older legacy chips, used in cars and industrial equipment, remained constrained. And here's the problem, you can't just swap one chip for another. Cars use dozens of specialized chips validated for safety, heat, vibration, and longevity. Replacing one can take years of re-engineering and regulatory approval. That's why automotive production remained fragile long after headlines moved on. So why did the crisis feel over? Because allocation replaced availability. Large buyers with long-term contracts got priority. Smaller manufacturers waited. Some never recovered. This rationing happens quietly in supply agreements, procurement meetings, and contracts. Once allocation becomes normal, scarcity becomes invisible. Now let's talk geography, because this is where the story becomes geopolitical. Semiconductor manufacturing is highly concentrated. Taiwan produces most advanced chips. South Korea dominates memory. A handful of companies in the US, Europe, and Japan control critical tools, materials, and design software. This concentration was efficient when the world was stable. It became dangerous when it wasn't. By 2022, governments stopped treating chips as neutral trade goods. Export controls, subsidies, and industrial policy entered the picture. The US restricted advanced chip exports to China, framing them as national security assets. China accelerated domestic chip investment. Europe launched initiatives to reduce reliance on foreign fabs. Japan revived domestic manufacturing. This changes how global tech leadership works. When chips are scarce and strategic, governments stop reacting to markets, they shape them. Export controls, licensing rules, and subsidies are now levers to steer technological progress. For tech companies, strategy is no longer just about innovation. It's about access. The most powerful firms are not just those with the best products. They are those with secure relationships across fabrication, equipment suppliers, and governments. A delayed export license or a restricted tool can set a company back years. For nations, semiconductor independence is a measure of sovereignty. Countries without it must align, negotiate, or accept dependency. Power now follows scarcity, and that scarcity is engineered, regulated, and defended at the highest levels. Chips have become leverage. Markets no longer work the way they used to. Access is selective. Prices are political. Capacity expansion is a strategic race, not just an economic decision. Reshoring became a buzzword. Build fabs at home, reduce dependence, solve the shortage. Reality, building a fab takes years, billions in capital, specialized labor, massive water and energy, and a dense supplier ecosystem. Many fabs announced in the early 2020s are still under construction. Even when they come online, they may not produce the chips most industries need. Advanced fabs don't solve shortages of older legacy chips. This brings us to the quiet lock-in phase. Companies adapt. They redesign products around what they can reliably get, not what they ideally want. Features are simplified. Product cycles are extended, older designs are reused. Temporary workarounds turn into permanent architecture. Innovation slows, not because ideas disappear, but because components limit what can be built. The chip shortage quietly defines the ceiling of technology. It shifts power upstream. When supply is abundant, manufacturers and consumers have leverage. When supply is tight, suppliers and governments gain influence over entire industries without touching the end product. So, who really controls the future of technology? It's not app developers, not device brands, not consumers. It's the entities controlling fabrication, equipment, materials, and trade rules. That control is growing. The next decade of tech won't be limited by imagination, it will be limited by capacity, geopolitics, and access. You may not feel the shortage in daily life like in 2021, but you will see it in slower upgrades, higher costs, fewer choices, and longer delays for complex systems. Silence does not mean resolution. It means the system adjusted, and systems that adjust quietly rarely adjust back. The global chip shortage didn't end. It became the background condition of modern technology. Scarcity consolidated power, power shapes innovation, and the supply of the smallest components now controls the largest systems. The future is no longer open-ended, it is managed. If you want to understand technology at the system level, not just the surface features, stay with this channel. Subscribe for more deep dives into the infrastructure shaping what gets built and what never does. And if this video reframed how you think about the tech around you, share it with someone who still believes shortages simply disappear.